The old you isn't holding you back. You're just afraid to let them die. You keep peeking back at who you used to be. The one who got ghosted, the one who struggled, the one who doubted. But you cannot live in both realities. When you decide you're done, you have to bury the old story and keep it buried. Do not keep digging it up. No more checking if it's changing. No more measuring progress. You do not have to heal the old you. You just stop being that version. You can assume, decide, be that version of yourself that is already healed, whole, perfect, complete. Every assumption you hold is a death sentence for the old reality. So stop asking when it'll show up. It already has. You are simply just still looking from the eyes of who you used to be. Stop chasing people. Start being the energy that makes them chase you. When you know who you are, you do not have to beg for attention. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to force anyone to love you because your energy already does the talking. Love is not something outside of you that you have to find or earn. It's who you are. It's what you radiate when you decide you're already chosen, already desired, already enough exactly as you are. When you're in that energy, people feel it. They think about you when they wake up. They remember you randomly during the day. They feel drawn to you and they don't know why. But it's because your energy is unfucking forgettable. You're being the version of you who is simply love. And when you are love, you don't chase it, you attract it. You walk into rooms differently. You speak differently. You stop trying to be seen because you already know that you're the one they can't stop looking at. The right people align with you naturally. The ones who match your new energy stay. The ones who don't simply fall away and you don't even care because you've stopped basing your value on how anyone else sees you. Love chases you now. Attention finds you now because you become the source of it all. So say it now with certainty. I am love. I am desired. I am unforgettable. Everyone who meets me feels it and they cannot forget me. You don't chase love. You radiate it. You become it. And because you do, it has no choice but to come back and reflect that. Some of y'all are still out here overcomplicating the law. You are definitely overthinking every little thing. Like every little thing you are, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? Like you can do whatever you want. It's your reality. There are no rules. There are no limits except for the limits that you apply to yourself. You are a limitless being, okay? Until you put limits on yourself. So there are no rules unless, only the rules that you give yourself. And that's it. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what I say. If it doesn't resonate with you in your reality, then don't accept it as true. Don't think you have to do this or you have to do that. You don't have to do shit. You just decide it's yours and that's it. The law is literal and your word is law. So if you are constantly actively affirming for something and you're not seeing anything change, like that, like saying, I don't see anything change, nothing's moving, nothing's happening. There is always movement, even if you don't see it. But instead of telling yourself nothing's happening, tell yourself, I know there's movement. There is always movement. Even if I cannot see it, I know that everything is unfolding perfectly for me behind the scenes. You do not want to be constantly telling yourself, oh, nothing's happening, nothing's changing. Okay, because that's the version of reality that you're choosing to be true for you, and that's going to be reflected. Your assumptions reflect into your reality. So simply change your thoughts, change your assumptions, and you will see change in the 3D. You cannot forcibly change in 3D. You can only change self. That is all there is to change is self, and everything else will follow. Now, not everybody in the manifestation is into the Bible and, believes in God. And that's fine. You don't have to. I do believe in God, but I also believe we are the God of our reality, right? But one thing I don't understand is why is, for those who do believe in God, why is it so hard to believe in manifestation when you believe in a man that created the world in 3 days? 3 days he created the whole entire world. He created people out of thin air. He created water out of thin air. He created the sun, the moon, the stars out of thin air. He created animals out of thin air. He created every single thing out of thin air. So why do you think that we are powerless and full of limits when God was limitless and we are God of our reality? So, just something to think about, because I did have somebody say, manifestation isn't real, but Jesus is. Okay, and that's fine. But why would you believe in that but not believe in manifestation? And I'm not judging. Like I said, I believe in God, but we're also the God of our reality. So what's the difference? Why don't you think that we can also be limitless and that we are just as powerful. Because, just think on it. If you are able to think and persist in unfavorable circumstances, then there is nothing stopping you from thinking and persisting in what you actually do want to experience. If you could do it with things you don't want to experience, do it with what you actually do want to experience. Create the life you want. Choose the life you want. Stop being a victim in your own reality. You're not a victim. You're the creator. You're the key. You are everything. You are God. You are limitless. You're a limitless, amazing being. So show up exactly as that. You guys do not have to sit around doing techniques all day, every day. Please go live your life. Go do the things you want to do. Go do the things that make you happy. Go live a happy, fulfilled, great, amazing life. Do not put your life on hold, on pause, because you don't have your manifestation. And I do notice a lot of people doing this, especially if it's like a SP. They're like, well, I want to spend holidays with SP. I want to, go to, if it was Halloween, haunted houses, corn mazes with SP, and they won't go if they don't have their SP. For maybe Christmas, they want to go see Christmas lights, anything Christmassy. They won't do it if they don't have their SP. Why? Go do it. Go live your life. Go live your life, okay? I promise. Start doing this. Start fulfilling yourself internally, and then you will see it reflected externally in your 3D reality. But you do not have to just sit around affirming 24/7, visualizing, doing a 369 method, staring at a vision board. You don't have to do any of that. You can go live your life. You've been manifesting your whole entire life, and it is as natural as breathing air, okay? And you do not stop breathing air, right? You're not just going to hold your breath until you get your manifestation. No, you're going to keep on breathing. You're going to keep on trucking. You're going to keep on going and doing what you want to fucking do. So go do what you want to do. Keep on breathing. Keep on manifesting, because you always are. It's not something that you can turn off and on like a light switch. No, you are constantly doing it. And by that, I mean your assumptions are constantly reflected. Okay, it's not something you have to do. It's not something you have to force yourself to do. It's just something that happens. Your assumptions are always being reflected. So just change your assumption. That's all you have to do. Change your thoughts, change your assumptions, change your freaking life. Your perspective is basically just your assumption. Your perspective is the lens that you're viewing reality through, and that lens is built out of your own assumptions and beliefs. So if you assume life is hard, you will interpret neutral events as proof of that. If you assume things always work out for you, you will naturally see opportunities and movement everywhere. So your perspective isn't random. It's the result of the assumptions you've practiced the most. Change those, and your entire perspective and reality shifts along with it. Your perspective is the story that you have accepted as true, and that story is made of your assumptions. When you assume something long enough, it becomes the filter your mind uses to interpret everything around you. Two people can live through the exact same situation, but their experiences will feel completely different depending on what they assume about themselves, others, and life. For example, if your assumption is people always leave, then you'll notice every tiny sign that seems to prove it, and you will overlook the moments that show the love and consistency. But if your assumption is I'm always chosen and secure in love, you'll experience the same situation through that lens, and your reality will start mirroring it. So perspective isn't just how you see things, it's what you've decided to see. And once you shift your assumptions, your whole world reorganizes to match that new perspective. I had another manifestation come into fruition, and it's really cool because I wasn't even expecting it. But for about the past week, my upstairs neighbor has been playing music super loudly and like super late at night, like midnight, and I'm trying to sleep, and all I hear is freaking music, so it was very frustrating. But there were times I wanted to go up and be like, hey, can you please turn that down? But I do not like confrontation, and I did not want to confront her about it. So there were times I also thought about going, emailing the property manager and being like, hey, can you tell her to be respectful of, my quiet time when I'm trying to sleep. It's midnight. But I also have not done that. I didn't do that either. I didn't want to do any of that. I was just kind of like, you know what? No, it's just kind of, it's going to stop. She's going to stop. Something's going to work out to where she stops. And it's really funny because today the property manager actually sent out a notification to all the tenants. You know, we have an app, and if you don't have an app, it gets automatically emailed to you anyways. But you have to pay rent through the app, so everybody should have the app, so I'm pretty sure she received it. But it was talking about, you know, the Tennessee laws. The quiet time is like 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So neighbors need to be respectful of that quiet time and keep the volume low. And I was like, you know what? That is hilarious. That is awesome. That is definitely not a coincidence. That's amazing. So I didn't even have to do anything. I did not have to take action. I thought about it. I wanted to, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to confront nobody. I didn't want to email anybody. I just kind of decided that it's going to stop. They're going to be respectful of me. And you know what? And then that gets sent out. So I think that's really cool. And that just kind of proves that you really don't have to take action. You don't. Not at all. Okay, I've been noticing that a lot lately. I have been able to manifest in a form of detachment. Now, I mean, if you know what detachment is, you don't have to detach to manifest. I think it really all depends on the resistance that you have to something. Now, with things, it all circulates around belief. Also, what you believe is possible for you and what is not. So, like, I was able to heal another health issue in the past week. And I don't feel like I really had a lot of resistance to that. And it took about 6 weeks. It was not something I was robotically affirming for, but it was something that anytime the pain would come up, I would tell myself, no, the hurting means I'm healing, instead of perceiving it in a way that, oh, it means it's getting worse. I do have to have the surgery to get better. No, I just told myself, no, the hurting is healing. That's a good thing. I tried to take it as a good thing, but I would also get frustrated with the pain, and that's understandable. But I wouldn't give it a meaning as in, oh, it means it's getting worse. No, that's not what I did. And then, what was it, yesterday? I got another manifestation about a neighbor's loud music. Again, not something I had a lot of resistance to. I didn't really care about it too much. And that's the thing. People's like, well, bless you. No. Why can I, why are some things easier to manifest? For one, it really depends on, are you saying something is hard for you to manifest? But another thing is, if you tend to detach from something and notice that you get it, okay, that's because you dropped the doubt, you dropped the resistance, and you might not have had a lot of resistance with it to begin with. But once you drop the story of, I can't do this, I can't have this isn't possible for me, it tends to show up. But again, it kind of depends on, for me personally, if I can usually tell if I have resistance to something. I'm not going to tell myself I have resistance, but I can usually tell. Because if I'm like, okay, I want $2 million, I'm going to have a little bit of resistance to that just because that's something I've never done before. And I do think money is energy and that it's absolutely possible to manifest money, but it is something that would be new to me. So I would robotically affirm for it. It is something I wouldn't be able to detach from and just think it's going to come to me. I would robotically affirm for it. But like other things, like if I want a free cup of coffee, okay, that's easy. That's simple. Sorry, I got a notification. But I feel like I can absolutely detach from that and just be like, yeah, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. And I'm going to end up with a cup of coffee the next day, that night, within days, within however long, hours. But I'm not going to really have a lot of doubts and opposing thoughts with that. My ego isn't going to be loud with a cup of coffee like it would be $2 million. So when it comes to detachment, yes, you can absolutely, just decide it's yours and then detach from it. But it also, I truly believe, it depends on the resistance you have and what you already kind of assume to be true for you personally. You don't have to wait years for your life to change. It happens the second you shift states. The second you drop the story of lack, you enter the timeline of fulfillment. And that's not a metaphor, it's physics of consciousness. Time only exists to catch up with who you become. You could be in despair right now and decide that it's done, and instantly reality begins rearranging. You don't need proof. You don't need signs. You literally just need a decision. That's all you need. You need a decision. Because the shift doesn't take time, it takes choice. And you make choices every single day of your life. So make the choice that you're the version of yourself that is living your dream life. That has what you want. Can have anything you want. And be that version now. You already have what you're trying to get. You're not manifesting something new. You are remembering who you already are. The version of you who has the money, the relationship, the dream life, she's not out there. She's not outside of you. She's right here. existing in a higher state of mind. And a lot of people's like, how do I get there? But you don't get there. You shift into it. I want you to think of like a radio dial, an old, maybe in a car, or an old-timey radio. Every time you affirm, you're tuning your frequency to that version of yourself, just like a radio dial. When you affirm for your desire, you're tuning into that version of yourself. Even if you don't feel your affirmations, even if you don't believe them, it doesn't matter. If you are affirming for it, you are that version of yourself now, in that moment, that has it. And then, when your inner world becomes dominant, the outer world has no choice but to match. So stop trying to become that version now. Just be them now. Be that version now. Because once you decide it's done, then it's already yours. If you're someone who likes to ask, how do I know if it's working? How do I know if I'm affirming enough? Because you said so. It's not about how much you affirm. Okay? It's not about effort. It's about identity. And I say that a lot. But because your word is law. And the law is literal. The law of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true will be true. So if you say it's working, then guess what? It's working. If you decide that this thing is yours, then it is yours. But don't contradict it. Don't contradict it. Don't dwell in the doubts. Don't dwell in the what if it doesn't work. No, don't even entertain that shit. Don't entertain it. If you say it's yours, then it's yours. And that is literally enough, guys. So many people are like, but it doesn't feel like it's enough, because you don't think it could be that easy. Because you don't think that it's possible for you. But it is. There are infinite versions of yourself, and there is a version of yourself right now that already has it. Absolutely. You already have it. You just need to stick to the assumption that it is yours, that it is possible for you. Because I'm telling you, if you persist until it hardens into fact, it will. Your reality will absolutely 100% conform to show you that it is really yours. So, if you say it's working, then it's working. But if you say, well, it's not working, okay, then you're affirming it's not working. And guess what? That is the version of reality that you are choosing to be true for you. So shift it to, no, it is working. It's always working. It works beautifully, perfectly, magically, whatever. It is always working. Your assumptions are always being reflected. Always. The way I see manifestation is kind of like being on a diet. Now, I don't want you to think you have to have a very strict mental diet. You don't, but you need discipline, okay? At the end of the day, you need discipline, just like with like a regular diet and if you're going to a gym. But let's say with, you're on a diet and your work is having a pizza party and you're over here with your salad and, you're like, this salad sucks. I really want pizza, okay? Even on a diet, you can have pizza in moderation. And still stick to your goals and your calorie intake. It's about not purging in it and not persisting in purging of the pizza, right? You can have a slice or two and be fine. And it's the same with our thoughts. You can have doubts and negative thoughts, but don't persist in those negative thoughts. You can still have doubts and still get your shit. That's fine. You can crash out and still get your shit. That's fine. But you don't, obviously, if you're on a diet, you don't want to do that every day. You don't want to do that constantly. You don't want to purge in this food that you no longer want to eat because you think it's not healthy for you and that you can't eat this, that you want to be healthier. So you don't want a lot of sweets and sugar and candy and soda and junk and grease, whatever. It's the same with your thoughts. It's that simple. If you have them, that's fine. Just don't purge in them. Don't persist in them if it's not what you want to experience. But don't freak out if you have them. It's okay. Be disciplined enough to know when to stop and to return back to the state of having it. That's the thing. A lot of people, they're just not disciplined. Or maybe they just don't really want it and they don't really care. And that's fine too. But if you want your shit, you're going to learn how to discipline yourself and learn how to persist in the assumption that it's yours. And that's really all there is to it. I actually want to add something on to my previous post about, being on a diet and how it's kind of like a mental diet. You don't have to be very strict with it. But again, we're going to go back to the workplace, and let's say you have a salad and other people have pizza. Okay. So they're over there eating their delicious pizza because pizza's amazing. Of course, we're going to want pizza, right? We're used to eating pizza. It's what we're familiar with. We love it. We crave it. And you can also do think of this with like smoking or, anything that we can kind of, I'm not going to really say get addicted to, but get attached to, get familiar with. It's kind of like a habit we've created. There we go. A habit. It's a habit we've created that we do every day. So once you start on this diet, it might be very challenging at first because you're used to doing this, smoking every day. You're used to eating pizza whenever you want to. And now you're kind of limiting yourself to eating healthier, being healthier, not eating so much junk and foods that you don't want to eat that you might consider unhealthy, right? And if you're trying to quit smoking, it's the same thing. You're trying to limit yourself, maybe you're trying to quit cold turkey, or you're just trying to cut down a little bit. It might feel like a challenge. Your mind is definitely going to be like, I really want this, I crave this, I'm familiar with this, I need this. It's the same thing with your thoughts. Your thoughts, like your mind is going to crave those thoughts that you're familiar with, that has been your comfort zone for so long. Now, it doesn't matter how long you have persisted in the story of, whatever you don't want to persist in anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to consider it a deep-rooted belief. I'm not going to tell myself I have a deep-rooted belief about something, because it doesn't have to be deep-rooted, and it doesn't have to make it any harder to change. It doesn't, unless you allow it to. But it's just because you're familiar with it and you've created a habit from it, and now you're trying to break that habit and create a new one. You're trying to create a new, healthier habit, whether it's with a diet, with stopping smoking, or just with your thoughts in general. You're just going to crave them, and that's okay. That's normal. That's fine. But like I said in the last video, don't purge in them. Allow yourself to, feel frustrated and feel what you need to feel and work through what you need to work through. Observe the thoughts you have. I remember when I quit smoking years ago, until I got pregnant, so I wanted to quit smoking cigarettes. It was a little tough because I was so used to doing it for so long, and I would just tell myself, I don't smoke anymore. I'm not the type of person to smoke. I don't want to smoke anymore. I no longer crave them. This just isn't who I am anymore. You can even tell yourself, oh, that's a weird thought to have for someone who doesn't smoke anymore. So, tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself, but it's okay not to have a very strict mental diet. I kind of learned, because when I had a very strict mental diet, it was exhausting just because I was trying to flip every negative thought, and I was scared to death of my thoughts. But thoughts are just thoughts. You do not have to fear them. You do not have to be scared of your thoughts. I promise. Just don't identify with them. I learned to just be aware of the thoughts, which you'll hear people say, be the observer of your thoughts. And that's the same thing. Being aware of them. Just, what am I thinking right now? And then just be aware of them. Kind of see what's going on up in there. But don't identify with them. Don't accept them as true. Don't give them any power, because everything only has as much power as you decide to give it. But once I kind of learned how to do that, it became so much easier for me. Now, you can flip every negative thought if you want to. It's definitely a lot easier for me to now, because if I get a thought, I'm just going to be like, that's not true. If someone was to come up to me and be like, oh, you have blue eyes, I'm going to be like, that's not true. I have hazel eyes. What are you talking about? And that's kind of what it is in my head now. I'll just get a thought and I'll be like, well, that's not true. That's not true at all. I know that's not true. So it does get easier, I promise. And look, it's progress, because at the beginning of my journey, I was a mess. I was a complete mess. I was identifying with every single thought I had. It didn't matter. I was. But now I don't do that. I simply observe and just tell myself that's not true. And you will get to that point too. Take it day by day, though. Take it day by day if you need to. Just kind of learn how to be aware of your thoughts and not accept them as true. Now, I plan on making an actual long YouTube video on this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that I was never worried about if I'm affirming from lack or desperation. Of course I was affirming to get something and not to remind myself that I had it, but at the same time, I didn't even know about what all that was at the time last year. I had no clue there was a difference. no freaking clue. Your subconscious doesn't know if you're affirming to get something or if you're affirming to remind yourself you have it. Unless you're telling yourself that, then it doesn't know. Your subconscious is only going to accept what you repeat, the story you are consistently telling yourself. That's all your subconscious takes in. It doesn't recognize the emotion or the desperation or the lack, again, unless you're repeating that story of it. So, like, I'm not focused on why I'm affirming. I'm just focused on affirming and thinking in my favor. I was that person that loved to fix people. Yes, I attracted broken men because I thought I could fix them, because I wanted to. I actually grew up wanting to be a therapist. I ended up getting pregnant, so that didn't happen, but that's okay. Like, I love my life now. I love my child, and I love what I do now. I love being able to teach people and help people, and I feel like it's way better than being a therapist anyways, because there is nothing wrong with therapy. Do not get me wrong. If you're in therapy, that's amazing. Do what you want to do. But me personally, I mean, I've been in therapy before also, so I know how it is. But I feel like it could be very limiting. And it's different from, teaching therapy to teaching manifestation, the law of assumption, the I am, however you want to describe it. It could be very limiting compared to that. Knowing that you are the conscious creator and that the co-creator with the universe of creating your own reality. It's different from therapy, so I'm kind of glad of where I landed in my life. Everything worked out perfectly for me, but realizing that I loved to fix people and only attracting those kind of relationships definitely played a huge part in my life when it came to relationships, because I couldn't fix them, because at that time I didn't know how to fix them, because it wasn't about them. It was about me. I had to choose a different version of me, because you can't fix people. You can't change them. You can't fix them. You simply choose a new version of them. You choose a new version of yourself, too. A huge reason I wanted to be a therapist is because I had a lot of mental health issues growing up. My mind was all over the place. I felt broken. I felt like I needed to be fixed myself. So that was also reflected in relationships. But that's why I love learning the science. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. You do not have to get into the science when it comes to manifestation, because of course manifestation isn't logical, but it's still fun for me to learn from Dr. Joe Dispenza and how he talks about new neural pathways getting created when you start thinking new thoughts, and when you persist in those thoughts, they create beliefs. That was just very fun for me. But I wanted to do that. I wanted to go to school for it, to figure out what the hell was wrong with me, because I thought that there was so much wrong with me, and there wasn't. I have always been perfect, whole, and complete, and there was nothing to ever fix. I only needed to choose a different version of myself. The version of myself that I wanted to be, that was already whole, perfect, and complete. So just choose that version of yourself.